I like to drink with Shonda, cause Shonda is my mate. I like to drink with Shonda, cause she gets it down in 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on, come on. What friend? What friend? What friend?
A family is grieving right now after their daughter was shot and killed outside of Detroit, Coney Island over the weekend.
They say it all started with a dispute with other customers at the restaurant.
She led with her heart. She would give you the shirt off of her back. She was always helping people. Whoever did this to know they took away such a bright light.
How does the simplest act of kindness lead to someone's demise? How come a night out with friends, a late-night bite to eat, end in unimaginable tragedy? What would you do if you saw a fight breaking out and you knew you could stop it? Would you step in to help, even if it meant putting yourself at risk? Now imagine you did just that. You tried to break up a fight to do the right thing, and in return, you ended up being the victim. All you wanted was to stop the chaos, to bring some peace, and yet, your good intentions lead to something unexpected? This is the story of Don Wilbert, a 27-year-old mother from Detroit, a woman described by those who knew her as a beacon of light, someone who would give you the shirt off her back. But on a fateful night in September 2023, that light was extinguished in a senseless act of violence in a parking lot outside a Detroit restaurant. The details surrounding her death are still shrouded in questions. Why was Don targeted for trying to help a situation? Who pulled the trigger? Or was there more to this that we don't know yet? And what series of events led to such a devastating outcome? In the next few minutes, you'll hear about the tragedy that has left a family shattered. How one fateful night, a decision to grab a quick bite, a simple attempt to break up an argument turned into an unimaginable loss. This isn't just another statistic. This is the story of a life lost, a family shattered, and a city grappling with the harsh realities of gun violence. This is Don Wilbert's story. This story might leave you heartbroken, so get ready and settle in for this thrilling true crime story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Let me know in the comments. Don't hesitate to join the conversation too. Your thoughts and input are a vital part of this story. Welcome to Mind Twist True Crime Stories, where all our stories are based on true crimes. Kindly support us by subscribing to this channel. Hit the notification bell icon so you won't miss any of our latest stories. Detroit serves as a backdrop for this heartbreaking murder case. It's the largest city in Michigan, a city with a rich history and a vibrant culture, often finds itself at the crossroads of resilience and hardship. Known as the Motor City, it's a place where music, innovation, and community thrive, but it's also a city that struggles with challenges like crime and violence. On Detroit's west side, places like Hollywood, Coney Island are staples of late-night life, offering food and familiarity to locals. But in this bustling urban backdrop, tragedy can strike unexpectedly, as it did on the night Don Wilbert lost her life. To understand the tragedy of Don Wilbert's death, we must first understand who she was in life. Don wasn't just a name in a news report. She was a daughter, a friend, a mother. She was a force of positive energy. Don Wilbert was a 27-year-old mother. She was a mother to a young child, raising her son with all the love she had to give. Every day was an opportunity to show him how to be kind, how to love others, and how to stand up for what's right. She wanted him to grow up in a world where kindness mattered more than anything else. She ran a business she called Limitless Trends, Inc., where she sold female wares and accessories. Her mother, LaDonna Kemp, described Don as someone with a heart of gold. She would give you the shirt off her back, LaDonna said in an interview with Fox 2 Detroit. This wasn't just a figure of speech. It was Don's way of life. She was known for her willingness to help others, while often putting their needs before her own. This compassionate nature, her family believes, is what ultimately led to her death. They even had to warn her about stopping to help strangers on the road because it was dangerous. But Don was the kind of person who had to see for herself. She had to try and help. Dawn's life revolved around her family and friends. She cherished her relationships and brought joy to those around her. She was the one who could always make you laugh, the one who could light up a room with her presence. But there was also a vulnerability to her, a deep caring that made her susceptible to the dangers of the world. And on that fateful night in Detroit, Donay was out with her female friends having a good time when she saw something that made her act. She saw a fight breaking out at the Hollywood Coney Island, a small argument turning into something bigger. It wasn't in her nature to walk away from a situation like that. She wanted to make things better, to stop the violence before it could escalate. This vulnerability, this desire to help, placed her in the wrong place at the wrong time. It made her a target. But a target for what? What could possibly justify taking the life of such a kind and giving person? This is where the story takes a turn, because the events of that night weren't random. There was a catalyst, a spark that ignited the chain of events that led to Donay's death. And that spark involved an argument that had nothing to do with her. Think about it. If Donay hadn't stepped in, would she still be here today? Would her family still be able to feel the warmth of her smile, the joy she brought to their lives? What could have been different? But what was this argument about? And how did it escalate so quickly, so violently? Imagine a typical weekend night. Laughter, friendship, the simple pleasure of sharing a meal. For Don Wilbert, that's how the evening of September 2nd, 2023 began. She had spent time with friends, enjoying their company, creating memories that would tragically become her last. As the night drew to a close, they decided to stop for a late-night bite at Hollywood Coney Island, located on Grand River Avenue in Detroit. A place meant for casual dining, a place that should have been safe. But within those walls, a different kind of story was unfolding. As Don Wilbert and her friends settled in, enjoying their food, an argument began to heat up between two men and a woman nearby. At first it was just words, a few raised voices, some back-and-forth exchanges, but it didn't stay that way for long. The details of the argument are unclear, but what is clear is that the tension was beginning to escalate. Donay, the peacemaker, did what she always did in moments like these. She stepped in. She couldn't stand seeing conflict grow. She couldn't sit back while things got out of control. This was a woman who believed in doing what was right, no matter the cost. She approached the group, hoping to calm things down, to get them to walk away and avoid a fight. But what started as a minor altercation soon spiraled beyond her control. Donay just wanted everyone to go home safe. But sometimes, even the most peaceful intentions can lead to disaster. The situation wasn't over. Not yet. Stay tuned to find out how this altercation turned deadly and what happened to Donay next. Her goal was simple: stop the situation from getting worse. She urged everyone involved to calm down and go home. She was doing everything she could to avoid a confrontation, to make sure no one ended up in danger. But as the argument intensified, Donay made a decision that would change everything. With the chaos around her growing, Donay decided it was best to walk away. She turned, walking out, heading toward her car, hoping that would be the end of it. She had tried her best to defuse the situation, but what happened next would prove to be a fatal choice. As Donay reached her car, the unthinkable happened. The fight followed her. The very people she had tried to help were now closing in on her. What happened next, you won't believe. Despite Donay's attempts to walk away, the situation wasn't over. One of the men from the argument wasn't ready to let things go. He followed her outside, ignoring her clear attempt to leave the conflict behind. Donay, now alone, reached her car, hoping to escape the chaos and return to her night with her friends. But that's when everything changed. As she stood there, vulnerable and alone, the man approached her. There was no one else around, no one to intervene. What had started as an attempt to stop a fight had now turned into something much more dangerous. At that moment, Donay was no longer the peacemaker. She was a target. A mother trying to get away was now facing a man whose rage had followed her outside. The seconds ticked by. Donay was caught in a situation she never expected, one that would soon turn into a life-or-death struggle. What happened next would leave her family and everyone who knew her forever changed. Stay with us. The next twist in this story will leave you speechless. In the parking lot of the Hollywood Coney Island, Donay Wilbert was shot. The details of the shooting itself are sparse, likely to protect the integrity of the ongoing investigation, but the outcome is tragically clear. A single act of violence, a gunshot in the night, extinguished a life full of promise. But here's the unsettling truth. Donay wasn't involved in the initial dispute. She was trying to leave. So why was she followed? Why was she shot? Was it a case of mistaken identity? Was it something more personal? This is the question that haunts this case. A question that investigators are still trying to answer. What do you think motivated this attack? Share your theories in the comments below. The man didn't hesitate. The shot was cold, calculated, and final. Donay, the woman known for putting others first, was now gone. Her death would leave a hole in the lives of everyone who knew her, a hole that could never be filled. Stay with us. This is far from over.
A family is grieving right now after their daughter was shot and killed outside of Detroit, Coney Island over the weekend.
They say it all started with a dispute with other customers at the restaurant. Jacqueline Francis sat down with the family and has their message tonight. Jacqueline.
They don't know exactly what that argument was about, but they do know that it took the life of a 27-year-old mother who had so much to live for.
She was always dancing and always smiling. She was such a great person, and if the person that did this to her would have known her for about 10 minutes, he wouldn't have never harmed her.
What started as a 3 a.m. dispute with other customers at a Coney Island in Detroit ended with gunfire. 27-year-old Don Wilbert's family said she was trying to get away from the conflict when it followed her.
She went to her car, and my understanding is she was shot when she was outside of her car, and she is the only one that was shot.
She died at the hospital. Her family devastated, telling us the young mother had plans to get engaged, plans to start a new job, a whole life ahead of her.
I'm so at peace with knowing that even within this tragic situation, that my daughter still went out peacefully, because when we identified and viewed her body, my daughter still had a smile on her face, and she looked very peaceful.
But what they can't accept is the senseless gun violence.
I really want people to understand that she was a person, not
A
a
mother,
statistic.
a friend,
She was
an
my
aunt,
daughter,
a cousin.
Yes.
I just never thought that I would ever have to post on social media RIP, and definitely not for my child.
We just heard back from police. They say that there are no updates on this case at this time. That means there have been no arrests. Anyone with information is asked to call police or 1-800-SPEAK-UP.
The hunt for the killer has only just begun. The parking lot of the Hollywood Coney Island becomes a scene of frantic activity. Witnesses, likely still reeling from what they've just seen, call 911. First responders arrive, the flashing lights of police cruisers and ambulances illuminating the scene. They find Donay. The details of what they found are understandably not public, but the reality is stark. A young woman's life has been violently taken. The investigation begins immediately. Police begin interviewing witnesses, trying to piece together the fragmented moments leading up to the shooting. They're searching for any clues, any piece of evidence that can lead them to the person responsible. Was there any security footage? Were there any other witnesses who saw something crucial? These are the questions that investigators are working tirelessly to answer. But in the initial hours and days following the shooting, a crucial detail emerges. According to reports, the suspect fled the scene. They didn't stay. They didn't confess. They vanished into the night. This raises a critical question. How did they escape so quickly? Did they have a getaway car waiting? Were they familiar with the area? This detail adds another layer of complexity to the case. It suggests a level of planning, a deliberate act that wasn't simply a spur-of-the-moment reaction. But what was the motive? What drove someone to not only commit this act of violence, but also to plan their escape? Donna's family was left in utter disbelief. Her mother, LaDonna Kemp, could hardly process what had happened. She still had a smile on her face when we saw her, LaDonna said, reflecting on the peaceful expression that Donay wore in death. A smile that had been so characteristic of her vibrant, joyful personality, now frozen in time forever. The pain was unbearable, but even in their grief, her family's voice was clear. Her father, Charles Kemp, made it known that Donay wasn't just another statistic. She wasn't a number in a news story. She was a person, he said, his voice filled with heartbreak. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, someone who meant the world to so many.
Well, we know the family's absolutely devastated, but they have so many questions too in terms of the investigation. Police are still trying to piece a lot of things together themselves, but the family has questions relating to how can something like this happen when their daughter tried to do the right thing.
She led with her heart. She would give you the shirt off of her back. She was always helping people.
LaDonna Kim says that's exactly what her daughter was doing when her life was stolen from her over the Labor Day weekend. Family members say 27-year-old Don Wilbert was gunned down at Hollywood Coney Island on Detroit's west side early Sunday morning, not long after she tried to break up a fight.
We had to even tell her, like, you can't pull over in your car when you by yourself because you see somebody on the road and they need help because it's dangerous out there. But she was kind of like the type of person that would have to like try or see for herself.
It started with Donay and her girlfriends having a fun night out. They went to the Coney Island for a bite to eat when an argument developed between two men and a woman, according to sources.
She just wanted everybody to go home and get home. And I'm very sure in my thoughts of knowing that she wanted to get home. I guess the guy followed her out and she was able to get herself out of the restaurant and she was shot in the parking lot.
Although we couldn't actually touch her when we went to go view her based upon the circumstance, she even had a smile on her face as we had to observe her in her last state.
She was doing the right thing, and that's what angers me.
Detroit activist Pastor Mo works with many community groups teaching de-escalation techniques to quash beefs before they ever can turn violent. He offered this advice for safe conflict resolution.
Make sure you're in a lighted area. Read body language. Look and see if they're reaching. Look and see if there's anything poking out their waist. Look at their type of demeanor. If this is the kind of person that they would have a weapon. If this is a working class person who maybe got on work clothes, you might can reason with them. There's somebody with a hoodie on. I'm not trying to judge anybody, but there's somebody who looks like they could be dangerous, menacing, or just don't care. Be careful how you approach somebody who could be having a mental breakdown.
Meantime, Donay's family is determined to make sure her legacy lives on.
I just want whoever did this to know they took away such a bright light that shined on so many different people. Everybody that she ever talked to will remember her because of just her great shine. Just her personality was amazing and she was amazing.
And no known arrests have been made. Police are still investigating, and they ask anyone with any information, anyone who may have seen something, no matter how small of a detail, to call Detroit police. We're live at the 8th Precinct. Dave Kinchin on The Edge.
Yeah, Dave, it seems so tragic when she was walking away in the parking lot, nearly free of this situation, to have it take such a turn.
Yeah, that's right. And police do have some surveillance video from the actual restaurant. We did talk with the owner of the restaurant, so he said police are looking at that video, trying to get more information, so hopefully some leads will come from that. That's very critical in all of this.
Yeah, and hopefully some tips come in. Thank you for that report as well.
The search for justice. It's a phrase we hear often, but what does it truly mean in a case like Don Wilbert's? It means tireless work by investigators sifting through evidence, following every lead, no matter how small. It means countless hours of interviews trying to piece together the fragments of that tragic night. According to reports, police urge the public to come forward with any information they might have, no matter how insignificant it might seem. A single detail, a fleeting observation, could be the key to unlocking this case. But as time passes, the investigation faces increasing challenges. Memories fade. Witnesses may become reluctant to speak. Evidence can become harder to trace. The lack of immediate arrest creates a growing sense of urgency. Donay's family, understandably, is desperate for answers. They want justice for their daughter, for their loved one. They want the person responsible to be held accountable. But as of now, the person who took Don's life remains free. This brings us to a crucial point: the role of the public. In cases like this, public awareness and engagement can be vital. somewhere, may have seen something. Someone may have information that could help bring closure to Donna's family. Even a small tip can make a difference. What do you think is the most effective way that will help investigators solve this murder case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don Wilbert's tragic death wasn't just the loss of a beloved mother, daughter, and friend. It was a stark reminder of the ongoing gun violence gripping Detroit. Her death didn't happen in a vacuum. It was the result of a growing crisis where disputes are settled not through conversation, but by pulling the trigger. Detroit, like many cities, has struggled with gun violence for years. In a city with a deep history of tension and hardship, violence often escalates quickly. Donnie's death was another tragic chapter in this cycle, one where lives are taken in the blink of an eye. Every life lost to senseless violence leaves behind not just a grieving family, but a community forever scarred. Donnie's death was no exception. The pain is real, and the fight for change continues. Local activists, including Pastor Mo, voiced their outrage. He condemned the violence, calling it unacceptable, and demanded change. "We can't let this keep happening," he said. Don's death is just one example of a larger problem that needs to be addressed. The call for change echoed through the city as the news of her murder sparked deep sorrow and anger. But as the days turned into weeks, the killer remained at large. Was there hope for justice, or would this tragedy fade into the background? Donna's family refuses to let her memory fade. Through their grief, they hold tight to the love she gave, the warmth she shared, and the kindness that defined her. Despite the devastating loss, the Kemp family's message is clear. Donna's legacy will live on, not just in the memories of those who knew her, but in their unwavering fight for justice. Her story is far from over. What will it take to finally bring justice to Don Wilbert? Don Wilbert's life was tragically cut short, but her impact and the love she left behind will never be forgotten. Her legacy lives on in the hearts of those who knew her, and in the fight for justice that continues today. We extend our deepest condolences to the family of Don Wilbert. Our hearts go out to her son, her parents, loved ones, and all those who are mourning her loss. May her memory live on, bringing strength and comfort during this difficult time. This story is one that truly deserves your attention. A like and a share can help amplify the voices of those affected by senseless violence in our communities. By sharing these stories, we not only honor the victims, but also fight for the justice they deserve. Let's work together to make sure these stories are heard and that no one is forgotten. And if you are looking for more true crime stories with mystery, thrilling suspense, justice for victims, and understanding human behaviors, hit the subscribe button now and turn on the notification bell icon below so you would be among the first to know when we put out a new true crime story. Don't hesitate to check out our other videos as well. Join the conversation in the comments, and together we'll explore how we can make a difference in our society and ensure justice for victims. Thanks for watching till the end, and until next time, stay safe.